China's claim of ownership of the South China Sea (SCS) is illegal, but Chinese hyper-nationalist officials are increasingly pushing their troops to attack enemy Navy ships that operate legally there. The People's Republic of China seems to be calling for battle, so that battle is what they will get. However, this is a battle that will not be limited to those waters, and a battle. A Chinese People's Liberation Army (PLA) officer recently urged a PLA Navy ship to crash and sink an enemy Navy ship carrying out free navigation operations in the South China Sea. A senior PLA Navy officer then called for the sinking of two enemy Navy aircraft carriers to scare enemy out of the South China Sea. Rear Admiral Luo Yuan, deputy head of the Chinese Academy of Military Sciences, emphasized that the key to China's domination of the South China Sea lay in the use of ballistic missiles to sink two aircraft carriers. Some might argue, such aggressive comments from senior PLA officers do not reflect official Chinese policy or are merely a form of information battle, but these defensive actions are clearly fraudulent. No senior officer has been publicly sentenced by the Chinese government for inciting battle, while the PLA Navy is increasingly involved in increasingly dangerous actions in the South China Sea. The Lanzhou PLA naval destroyer drove about 45 meters from USS Decatur when it crossed the bow of an enemy warship near Gavin Reef in the South China Sea. The USS Decatur commander avoided a collision before swiftly veering to avoid Lanzhou's aggressive maneuvering. The enemy Navy diplomatically called Lanzhou's planned actions the PLA Navy, Coast Guard managed by the Chinese military, and its maritime militias have also threatened and sunk enemy ships and have chased the enemy Navy and fishing fleets from enemy waters. The enemy also plays a major role in the calculation of the Chinese government in the South China Sea. Chinese President Xi Jinping has ordered the PLA to be ready to attack enemy in 2020. By taking exclusive control of the South China Sea, China's claim of ownership of the South China Sea is certainly false. The International Arbitration Court (PCA) in The Hague, the Netherlands released the arbitration court's decision that China's claim of the historic right of the South China Sea. Chinese President Xi Jinping continued to pursue his vision of the Great Rejuvenation, to achieve unification of the territory that China regards as China's sovereign territory. Its tools include aggressive and growing political battle and overly confident military forces. Although Xi promised in 2014 not to militarize the Chinese-made islands in the Spratly Islands, the Chinese government has built air bases and strongholds there and deployed warships to new naval bases at Fiery Cross, Mischief Reef and Subi Reef. In the South China Sea, the Chinese Navy, Coast Guard and the Chinese People's Armed Forces Maritime Militia harassed fishing vessels and military vessels in other countries. However, according to the analysis of Carrie K. Gershanik and James E. Fennell of the National Interest, countries from all over the world are starting to slowly push back against Chinese blatant aggression in the South China Sea. When the British Royal Navy and the United States Navy held joint exercises in the South China Sea in early 2019, China was notified. The Anglo-US exercise was closely followed by the first British Royal Navy Naval Freedom Operation in August 2018 near the contested Paracel Islands. Britain is committed to re-engaging in the region to combat China's growing strength and militarization of the South China Sea. China, of course, strongly criticized the British actions. However, perhaps what the Chinese leaders lacked in appreciation was the growing concern of the European Union and the Organization of the North Atlantic Treaty (NATO) regarding China's illegal assertive actions in the South China Sea and its corrupt and coercive activities globally. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg often expressed NATO concerns about the situation in the East and South China Seas, and then reaffirmed opposition to unilateral coercive action that could change the status quo and increase tension. This political decision was reflected in NATO's new commitment to increase defense spending and modernize military capabilities.